Hello, astronomy enthusiasts from all over the world. My name is Luis Miguel Azurin, and I welcome you once again to a new episode of Astronomical Ephemerides here at Astro Academy. As you know, this is your YouTube channel, your podcast, and your online school for astronomy and astrophotography. We begin the month of March 2026. This month brings us one of the most spectacular phenomena of the year, a total lunar eclipse, popularly known as a blood moon. Along with other interesting events in the night sky, such as planetary conjunctions, encounters between the moon and bright stars, the close passage of a comet, and the arrival of the spring equinox. All of this offers unique opportunities for observation and astrophotography. So get your binoculars, your camera, and your eagerness to look up at the sky ready, because March promises to be an unforgettable month. Let's start with the phases of the moon, which set the pace of the night sky. On March 3rd, we will have a full moon, traditionally called the worm moon. This name comes from the time of year when the Earth begins to warm up, and the first worms start to appear on the surface. The most remarkable thing about this phase is that it coincides with a total lunar eclipse, an event that we will discuss next, and which is also called a blood moon because of the reddish hue the moon takes on during totality. On March 11th, we will reach the last quarter, with half the lunar disk illuminated on its left side, allowing us to observe this side of the lunar geography during the early morning hours. On March 19th, the new moon will arrive, the perfect phase to observe faint deep sky objects, galaxies, and nebulae without interference from moonlight. And on March 25th, we will reach the first quarter, the perfect time to observe details on the lunar surface right after sunset. Let's move on to the month's notable planetary events. The main event of the month is, without a doubt, the total lunar eclipse on March 3rd, 2026. During this eclipse, the moon will pass completely through the shadow cast by the Earth, taking on a reddish hue due to sunlight refracted by the Earth's atmosphere. This phenomenon will be visible from much of the planet's nighttime regions, including the Americas, Europe, Asia, Oceania, and especially the Pacific. This makes it one of the best opportunities of the year to observe a complete total lunar eclipse. The eclipse will begin with the start of the penumbral phase at 8:44 UT. The partial phase will begin at 9:50 UT, and the totality phase will begin at 11:04 UT. Once totality ends at 12:03 UT, the eclipse will begin to recede until finally ending with the penumbral phase at 14:23 UT. Therefore, this is an eclipse that we will not be able to enjoy in Spain or Europe, but it will be visible in much of the world, including Central America and part of South America. But in addition to the total lunar eclipse, March brings us some interesting planetary encounters. On March 8th, Venus will approach Saturn in the evening sky. Right after sunset, both planets will be visible very close together and near the western horizon. On March 15th, Mars will pass close to Mercury. Although Mercury is a tricky planet to spot at sunset with a very clear horizon or even from the top of a mountain, it will be possible to try to see it together with Mars using binoculars or small telescopes. Although the main highlight of this month is the total lunar eclipse, there are still other events worth mentioning. On March 2nd, just before the eclipse, the moon will pass very close to Regulus, the brightest star in the constellation Leo. From Asia, not only will this conjunction occur, but there will also be an occultation of Regulus by the moon. It will be an interesting scene to observe and photograph with the nearly full lunar disk next to this prominent star. On March 10th, the moon will approach Antares, the bright red star of Scorpio, a meeting that is beautiful to see with the naked eye or with binoculars. It will be an event especially enjoyable from the American continent. Additionally, on March 18th, comet 88P/Howell will reach its perihelion, that is, the closest point to the Sun in its orbit, although its altitude and position make it a comet that is almost exclusively accessible from the southern hemisphere. Another important astronomical event this month is the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere and the autumn equinox in the southern hemisphere, which takes place on March 20th. This event marks the beginning of spring in the northern hemisphere and autumn in the southern hemisphere, with day and night being of equal length all over the planet. As always, we finish with some photography tips so you can capture some of these astronomical events that March brings us. Without a doubt, the total lunar eclipse on March 3rd is one of the best opportunities for astrophotography this month and this year. To capture the transformation of the moon into a blood moon, yes. Use the longest telephoto lens possible, 400mm or even 600mm. It will be ideal with a stable tripod and exposure sequences that cover from before totality until after to show the progression of the eclipse. If you have a star tracker mount, you'll be able to make your photographic equipment follow the movement of the moon across the sky. And this task will be much easier. The conjunction of Venus and Saturn on March 8th is excellent for compositions with terrestrial horizons, especially right after sunset with the warm tones of twilight in the background. And for Comet 88P/Howell, the key is tracking with a mount, star tracker, and relatively long exposures under dark skies. Looking for details of the coma with telescopes or long focal length lenses. And that's all for the astronomical events of March 2026. A month with one of the most accessible lunar eclipses of the year, planetary conjunctions, lunar encounters with bright stars, the perihelion of a comet, and the arrival of spring or autumn. Whether you have advanced equipment or not, the important thing is to look up at the sky and enjoy it. See you in the next Astro Academy video.